and today the voters have spoken. And I look forward to meeting with caucus and the party executive to prepare the path forward from tonight.
Heather Stephenson and her Manitoba PCs lost power this week after an election campaign that fueled criticism from within even her own party. An outgoing Manitoba Tory cabinet minister is denouncing her party's hard-right pivot during the campaign, which featured billboards that call to stand firm against searching a landfill for 2 murdered Indigenous women. A message she now says is, quote, deeply regrettable. Rochelle Squires is a former Manitoba PC MLA for Riel, and she joins me now. Rochelle Squires, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for having me on your show today.
Why do you think it's important to speak out about your concerns about the campaign now and not during the campaign itself?
Well, it certainly was a really tough election that we just went through, and a very tough week for Manitoba Progressive Conservatives. And while there were a lot of concerns that were raised during the campaign, now I believe that the reason I decided to speak out was just so that Manitoba Progressive Conservatives could come to terms with what's left of what's left of the party, left of the legacy of our former government, and carve a new pathway forward, one that will see some unification and a better path forward where people are clear about the stance and the policies that are going to be positioned, and what will be put forward won't be coming as a surprise for any of the future candidates.
Some of these ads were pretty strongly criticized, right, as being cruel and insensitive and divisive is the way it's been described by a lot of people. I've read some of the reporting, though, in the aftermath, and no one seems to take responsibility for the decision. I mean, who decided to do this, and what were they trying to do?
So as a former cabinet minister of that government, and certainly as somebody who had held some senior portfolios throughout the time in office, I am certainly taking accountability along with everybody else who ran for the PCs, who was part of the PC campaign. I think that we all have a level of responsibility, and I certainly take responsibility for that. Having said that, as a candidate, when we put our name on a ballot and we enter into that relationship, that very unique relationship between as a candidate running for a party on a party platform, and knowing that decisions are going to be made, it's not always going to be a consensus decision. You can't run a campaign like that with 57 candidates by having everything vetted by each and every candidate. There's that sacred trust between a campaign manager and a campaign team and the candidates. And candidates are often put on a need-to-know basis about what's coming down in terms of policy or advertising. And I certainly do think that there was a stretch in this past campaign where candidates were not given a preview of any of the ads that were coming out, and candidates were not asked for opinions until after they were appearing in the papers or on billboards. And at that point, it really was too late for the opposition to these ads to be for a different course to be taken.
Do you think you were deliberately kept in the dark about these choices because perhaps there was a sense at the top levels of the campaign they knew how controversial these positions might be?
I couldn't speculate on that because I never stepped in the war room at all during the campaign. I was in a very difficult riding where certainly we were feeling the challenges from the first day we stepped out on the campaign trail. We knew that we were facing an uphill battle. I left my riding only a few times, infrequently, at the beginning of the campaign, was to make some campaign announcements and to be the face of the party on certain initiatives. And then once these ads became apparent and once they were out there on, like I said, on billboards or in the newspaper, I withdrew from any campaign commitments or activities from that moment forward.
Right, so you made your displeasure known in that way, by not
Yes.
participating in extra things. I wonder now, though, are you staying in the PC party after this, or are you leaving entirely?
No, I've made my exit from provincial politics, and while I do have very fond memories and amazing colleagues that will stay with me forever, I've closed the chapter for my life in provincial politics and looking forward to some next step.
But there's leaving, I guess, active political life, and then there's tearing up your membership card, right? And not being a member of the party and not being involved in it in future elections. Are you at that stage? And is it because you lost, you just want to change, or is it because of your disagreement with the direction the party went in this campaign?
I think that the party has a lot of soul searching to do and certainly needs to determine its identity as to whether or not it's remaining as a progressive conservative party or whether or not it's going to be less progressive. And I think that the party and those that are left, and some very, very capable people, some newly elected people from Tuesday night in some of our seats that we managed to hold on to, they have great contributions, and I have every confidence that their contributions will be more valued than any contribution that I could make, and I'm certainly grateful for the time that I spent in office, but looking forward to a next chapter outside of politics.
Kelvin Gertzen, who served in cabinet with you as a justice minister, who was re-elected in Steinbach, he said he also had some deep concerns about the negative ads, but felt calling them out publicly after losing the election would serve no purpose. What do you make of that position your former cabinet colleague is taking, and is that a good one for the party to adopt in the wake of this defeat?
I certainly respect Kelvin Gertzen, and I wish him all the best as he retains his role as the MLA for Steinbach and as he moves forward in the next phase of his political career. And I have no doubt that he'll make some great contributions in steering the caucus and the party to better days ahead. And I appreciate his stance. For me, I did feel that there were a lot of people throughout Manitoba who were questioning whether or not this was part of, progressive conservatives were really troubled with what they saw and really needed to know that they weren't alone with those concerns and that they have an opportunity to have a voice. And I would certainly hope that everybody, when they get back around those tables, whether it's elected members or members of the party writ large, will get to the table and have those conversations about what happened and really about the identity of this party.
I wonder about the identity of the premier we saw on display in that election, because I'd interviewed Heather Stephenson many times in the run-up, and I always got the sense that she was a progressive conservative in the Manitoba tradition, and the hard line that we saw in the campaign wasn't this Heather Stephenson I had a sense of from here in Ottawa. Do you think she was her true self in the campaign when she went to these positions, or was she campaigning as something that wasn't authentic to her?
As the first woman premier in the province's history, Heather Stephenson had a huge challenge in front of her, and she had a lot of obstacles and challenges to overcome, and it hadn't been an easy time for us in the previous 4 years in government. And although I wasn't in the war room, I can't speak for the decision-making process or any of her experiences, but I certainly do wish her all the best in her next phase of her journey, and certainly hold on to some of those memories that I have of the former premier and I making announcements for a lot of things that progressive conservatives hold dear, and that's what I remember most, and that's what I will take from this closed chapter.
But were you surprised to see her take the positions she took in this campaign after working with her for all those years?
I think many people were surprised. 3 months ago, we were making announcements for improving services for the LGBTQ plus community. We were making announcements for eradicating gender-based violence. We were signing a national action plan for improving the lives for disenfranchised. We'd renamed the Manitoba Status of Women Secretariat to Gender Equity Manitoba, and we had increased funding significantly, unprecedented funding for disability services, to name a few. And so that is what I had certainly come to believe were values that she had held dear to her, and I certainly know that is the person that she is someone who would really stick her neck out for disenfranchised and underrepresented communities, as she did in her last year as Premier.
Rochelle Squires, former Manitoba PC MLA and Cabinet Minister, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the CBC Manitoba YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For the latest breaking news and top stories, download the CBC News app.